Welcome back to Turning the Mirror podcast. And here we bring you the perspective you don't get in any other places. And here with my co-host Olengo Kwach, myself, Woth Kaboko, and here to report to you the statement by Justin Muturi to the police when he's clarifying on the abductions of his son. And he speaks about the persons who abducted his son and plus the way it was done. Thank you. Welcome, Kwach.
Thank you so much. We are going to give you this statement on the account step by step, and then after that we are going to maybe look at it keenly, just a little bit, so that we can show you how and what we think of it. Because high chances are that those who led this abduction and the higher powers that gave instructions are the very, very people who are behind the abductions in Kenya. This is the statement by Justin Bidan Njoka Muturi, and it states as follows. I am the current Cabinet Secretary for Public Service. On the 22nd of June 2024, at 21:29, I was meeting some friends in Gigiri when I received a call from Wairimu, the wife of my son, Leslie Muturi. She told me that she had been informed by Honmak Mwenje that Leslie had been abducted a few minutes ago by armed hooded gangsters. She said that they had just passed the roundabout on Dennis Pitt Road and turned onto Olengron Avenue when the incident occurred. She stated that Leslie had been with Honmak Mwenje and Marangu Imanyara at Alfajiri having drinks, and they decided to go to a birthday party in Lavington. It was during this process that Leslie was waylaid and kidnapped. The kidnappers forced him into a vehicle and drove off, and she was unable to reach him on his phone. I tried calling Leslie's phone, but it was switched off. At the time, I was with my friend Paul Muthoka. After discussing the matter with him, I called the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Koome, explained the situation, and he promised to circulate the information among various police stations and call me back. Shortly afterwards, Mark Mwenje called me from the scene and described what had happened. He said the vehicle that abducted Leslie was a white box Prado, and armed men brandishing AK-47 rifles and wearing hoods had blocked Leslie's car, opened the driver's door, and pulled him out while the car engine was still running. Mwenje noted that at the time he called me, Leslie's car engine was still running. I then called Raymond Omolo, the PS for Interior, and explained the abduction. He assured me that he would take action. I also attempted to reach the Director of Criminal Investigation, Mr. Mohammed Amin, but his phones went unanswered. I tried calling the National Intelligence Service Director General Nordin Haji, but he did not answer either. After about an hour, I called the IG again. He informed me that he had alerted all personnel on all routes suspecting it might have been a robbery. However, I told him that based on the information provided by Mwenje, the abductions appear to be security personnel rather than robbers. He seemed unconvinced, stating that there was no planned police operation that night. Several friends joined me at the scene, and we continued making calls to various officers and individuals who might help in locating my son. I called Raymond Omolo a second time, and he confirmed that he had contacted several agencies to assist in finding Leslie. However, he was still inclined to believe it was a carjacking. We learned that police from Kilimani had gone to Citizen TV to obtain CCTV footage, but the station was initially reluctant to release it. Hondungu Gathenji, who had joined us, called Washira Waruru, the CEO of Citizen TV, explained the situation and requested any information that might help identify the vehicle. Waruru later sent us footage showing the events leading to the abduction. The footage showed Leslie driving out, followed by Mwenje. The footage also captured the box Prado and another vehicle, resembling a Probox, following Leslie and Mwenje prior to the abduction. Around 3:00 a.m., I decided to send a WhatsApp message to the president, informing him about my son's abduction. Around this time, someone gave me the contact number of Said Kiprotich Mohammed, the director of Anti-Terrorism Protection Unit. As we had identified the box Prado in the CCTV footage and learned that such vehicles were often used by ATPU, I called Mr. Mohammed, but he did not answer or respond to my text message. Since I could not reach Amin, I obtained the contact of his deputy, James Onyango, and called him. He said he would look into the matter, but was unaware of any police operation that night. We eventually retired to our homes around 5:00 a.m. to freshen up. While at home around 8:15 a.m., James Onyango called and informed me that they had checked everywhere, but there was no reported case of that nature. He promised to intensify their search efforts. Shortly afterward, Said Kiprotich Mohammed called back. After I had explained the situation, He assured me that there was no ongoing operation and that ATPU was not involved. Given the anxiety at home, where many relatives and friends had gathered, I informed them of the previous night's efforts and left to continue the search. We returned to Gigiri and met with friends who had also been searching various police stations without success. Between 10:00 and 11:00 a.m., a friend from NIS called, informing me that my son was being held by their people. I shared this information with my friends, and it was agreed that I should call Nordin Haji again. Despite multiple attempts, he did not answer. Just before 1:00 p.m., I decided to call Professor Kindiki, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior. After explaining the entire situation, he expressed shock and assured me he would contact Nordin Haji. 15 minutes later, Professor Kindiki called back, saying he had spoken with the DG and NIS, who denied holding Leslie despite my insistence that I had confirmed information from an NIS officer. Professor Kindiki maintained that the DG could not be lying. We continued our inquiries, and I checked my phone to see if the president had read my message. He had not. Shortly afterward, we saw the presidential helicopters heading towards State House. Knowing the president had been attending a church service in Nyandarua, I decided to drive to State House to see him in person. Upon arrival, I found that the president had just finished lunch with a group of MPs, including Mwangi Kiunjuri and John Kawanjiku. I waited until they finished their discussion. When Mwangi Kiunjuri concluded his conversation with the president, I approached. After greetings, I informed the president about my message, and he explained that his phone had crashed due to an overload of messages. I then narrated the ordeal, including my interactions with various senior government officials who had been unable to help. I expressed my belief that NIS was holding my son. The president joked, asking why anyone would want to arrest a young person over the Gen Z demonstrations. He even mentioned that Kiunjuri's son and the sons of other officials had been involved in similar demonstrations. He then called his technician to check the status of his phone. Since it was still not functioning properly, I requested that he call Nordin Haji directly. Standing outside the pavilion, I heard the president ask Nordin Haji if he was holding my son. Nordin confirmed that indeed he was holding my son, and the president instructed him to release Leslie immediately. Nordin responded that Leslie would be released within an hour. After thanking the president, I drove out of State House and rejoined my friends in Gigiri and explained what had happened. Slightly over an hour later, Leslie called me to say he had been released and was at home. I then went home to see him. This is a true and accurate recollection of what transpired. Signed by Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi. Dated 14th January 2025.
Oh, thank you so much. This one comes along, and the citizens of Kenya, the public, are asking three big questions. One being, what does this incident reveal about the safety and accountability of Kenya's security apparatus for ordinary citizens? If the cabinet secretary struggled to secure his son's release, what is the hope for the general public and in similar cases? Number two, why did senior government officials fail to act promptly? Why was the issue only resolved after the presidential intervention? Does this point to inefficiency, negligence, and complexity within Kenya's security and the governance system? The third question is, was NIS or any state agency involved in Leslie's abduction? And if so, what were the motives? Why would a nation security agency target an individual? And was this a misuse of state power?
Yeah.
What can you say?
Very interesting, though disturbing account here. Because remember, at this point, Justin Muturi was the Attorney General and a member of the Security Council. With all the links, you can tell from his statement what he did. So let's say that it was maybe you or someone out there who doesn't have all these links that was abducted. Let's even talk of maybe Kibet Bull with no much connections. Because where on earth would Kibet Bull's parent drive to State House?
Sure.
Who would allow him in? And remember, with all these things, the DG is not picking his calls. And everybody else is saying they are not sure. They don't know where the son of Muturi is. And now when the president intervenes, it is found out that it is a sure bet that the NIS is having his son.
Oh, so this means this is a direct proof that the government is behind all the abductions that are taking
I'd
place.
say yes, because why then would he be released within an hour? Immediately the president orders his release. Because, and then I can as well maybe tell, to some level, maybe the police might be sincere when they say they're not sure who is abducting these citizens or fellows. Because remember, the then IG of police, Japheth Koome, did what he could by circulating the information across the police stations and telling even the officers on the look that maybe it's a robbery case, so look out so that maybe this young man's life is safe. Then later, you realize that so it seems that maybe the DCI and the NIS were working hand in hand, because if the Director General of the National Intelligence Service and the head of the DCI boss actually were not picking the calls. They were not picking Justin Muturi's calls. Remember, this is the Attorney General calling, and they are not picking his calls. So it means they knew why he's calling or why he was calling.
The general public is so worried and concerned about such a matter that just a person with no connection like Justin Muturi had. So what's the way forward?
I think what should happen is what we've seen happen in Kirinyaga and Nakuru. Fellow Kenyans, if you see, because the police has in several occasions said they are not aware of these abductions and that the abductions are not being conducted by any of them. So we should treat these people as thugs. So the same thing we saw in Kirinyaga and the same thing we saw in Nakuru. If any Kenyan is trying to be abducted, let Kenyans join hands. Let it not be a Nairobi life where someone is robbed or someone is like nobody cares.
Yeah.
Let us change so that if at all one of us is being abducted, any Kenyan is being abducted, or anybody within the Kenyan boundary is being abducted, let the Kenyans who are there raise an alarm, call one another with that mob. Let it be a mob justice, attack these people, and ensure they don't go away with one of us.
Yeah, because we must hold them accountable, because the police have denied that they're not getting involved in this, and they're not maybe releasing statements or maybe providing ways forward.
What I'm not sure is if at all the police are not aware, what are they doing? Because they have all the machines to identify these things. If across the roads we have CCTVs everywhere, everywhere, though to some extent, you realize that it's the DCI with the access to these things and many more. We are not security experts, so we might not advise past that. But our concerns are, why would a security agency abduct, not arrest, abduct a Kenyan and fail to present them to a court of law? And even after their release, when the parents are aware that it is this agency that had my son, still there are no answers. This issue is not within the courts of justice, and all so on and so forth. Why the abductions? Why the security agencies are involved? And why is it so that they must wait for an order from the big man himself?
And briefly, before we wrap up all this, why does Justin Muturi release all this information now?
I think he is just tired. I think he's tired because to some extent you might be working for someone or working for the government in this matter. And then maybe because of the political environment or the working environment, you might decide that, oh, it's not good. I'm a Kenyan. I want to be a good Kenyan citizen. And so let me just release this to help other Kenyans. Or again, he might decide maybe he wants to run for a political office. And so he must just clean his name so that he's away. Remember, this thing happened last year, June, around June, July. And he's doing it this year, January. So maybe there are things he has decided to do and he wants his name clean.
Oh, thank you so much and welcome again to Turning the Mirror podcast. Subscribe and turn the notification bell that you get all this notification, everything that is happening across the country. We bring you as it is and at the right time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.